Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry
It's the 49er Faithful UK show. Week 15 and a Christmas Day game. Turned out to be not quite so merry for the 49ers, as a strong Ravens team combined a good performance, a good game plan, and a few slices of luck to leave with a 33-19 victory. Much has been made of the performance, especially Brock Purdy's 4 interceptions, but Montana had a 4 interception game. Just thought I'd get that in first. And hopefully we'll be able to provide some measured reaction, and certainly not overreaction, to a game that ultimately hasn't changed the Niners playoff situation at all. But if you do need the therapy, we are here to help. I'm Gareth Ellis, and while there's no victory Boxing Day, it's still good to see Paul Hope.
Gareth, it's great to have you back, buddy. What's up, Faithful? Don't worry, the sky's not falling in.
It's not. And Nadgy Paul.
Hello, everyone.
So Lee is still on IR. His voice is not up to it. I think Lee's had a throat infection, and unfortunately can't talk as much as he would like to. And I think it's probably safe for everybody involved that he's not even going to try on the podcast, because he would probably not be able to contain himself, as we know and love. And he's, to be honest, he's chosen another good game, I think, to duck out of. So there we are. We've had a bit of time to digest the performance, the suck in the disappointment. Have you got some talking points for the game that we can go through and make some sense out of a game I don't think anyone really saw coming? Paul?
Yeah, I've done my homework.
Do your homework.
I do, Gareth. You were back. So the last 2 episodes, me and Nadgy have winged it, and I mean winged it, but you're back. Well. So I got my homework done. So the first talking point for me is turnovers. Big part of this game. Me and Nadgy talked about it in the preview. You lose a turnover battle, which we'll get into. The sky isn't falling in, as I said at the start. I've got more on that. And the last one, the Grinch came to town. Penalties, penalties, penalties. So we need to discuss that.
Yeah, that summed up the game pretty well. Nadgy?
Yeah, we need to talk about the O-line. I think that's one of the reasons the sky did fall on that day, not on the season, obviously. Yeah, we need to talk about Brock and what it means in his future. I really enjoyed his press conference and his reaction to it. And I think, thirdly, we need to talk about defense and third and longs. What is it with third and longs and good QBs? Anyway.
Oh, there we go. A little bit of frustration set in earlier. Calm down, Nadgy. It's all done. We're supposed to be doing the therapy, not requiring the therapy. So let's. I mean, it's quarterback stuff. Let's start with Brock Purdy. I think you mentioned that. Off you go, Nadgy.
Yeah, I took a deep dive into interception QBs, and I wanted to see if there's something that happen regularly or not. And it turns out it happens actually quite a lot to a lot of very good QB. You mentioned in the intro, Montana did have 4, although he did win that game, so that obviously helps a little bit. There's a lot of QBs have had multiple interception game like this. Peyton Manning had 6. Tom Brady had 6 of those games. Peyton Manning had 6 interception game against the Chargers the year he was at the Super Bowl MVP. So, this was peak Peyton Manning. Basically, it happens. John Amos has done it. Testaverde's done it. Obviously, what's his name for the Packers? I'm blanking now. Brett Favre has done it. Yeah, plenty of times. 4 interception games are not. It happens, and I think if we really truly look at all of those, the only one I have a problem with is the first one, and he said so himself, and that ties into his reaction on the podium and his press conference. He explained what he did, and Troy Aikman actually did read that pretty well during the broadcast and talked about it, even though they were really biased against him not getting MVP. That's a discussion for another time. Can't trust the Cowboys. And yeah, he just basically he got fooled by Kyle Hamilton, who I hope is okay, by the way, because he's an absolute all-time safety. I think he's going to be great in this league for a long time. He just got full. He went to his second read. He thought it was open. He should have checked it down. And he didn't. He tried to squeeze it in, and he paid the price. And ultimately, it changed the complexion of the game. That drive was amazing. The Josh Kittle catch and run. I think if he chose a different route on his running and go behind BA, he might go all the way and score. It was one of those days, I think. But yeah, apart from that, two deflection, one O-line crumbling, hit his arm just at the wrong time, and the pass was off, and you end up with 4 picks. It happens. I don't think it's the end of the world, and I really like the way Brock said, "Yeah, I'm not happy about it. The first one happened because of this, and it's my fault." He's learned. I think that game has taught him a lot, and I think that's great that it happened on a game that we really did not need to win all that much. It would have been nice, but it's not the end of the world. We just need to win. This Sunday coming, Dallas lose, the Lions lose, the Eagles lose, and we still got the number 1 seed before playing the Rams. If not, we'll just have to beat the Rams. Not a problem. But yeah, no, sometimes QBs have bad games. And I don't even think he had a bad game. He was pretty on point, apart from 4 picks. If you look at his stats, take the 4 picks away, it's pretty birdie-ish.
I've got the stats here, Nadgy.
Yeah,
18
go
for
for it.
32, 255 yards, no touchdowns, and the 4 interceptions. And we talked, Gareth, on the preview show, me and Nadgy, of McDonald mixing his looks up. We said we couldn't tell you what strategy to play. McDonald mixes it up. And that first interception will be good for Brock's development because they look like they're in a cover 3. You look at the all-22 level. You said about the check down, Nadgy. I've seen Johnny Dell, who was on with Chapman earlier, break it down. He said the problem is the defense had covered it that well. There wasn't a check down. And there's that small window, which Brock all season long has been fitting that ball into. And like you said, Hamilton just made a play. The other 2 interceptions was like a pinball machine, wasn't it? The ball was pinging around. And we've said all season long, Faithful, sometimes the ball bounces your way. And I said to Nadgy off air, Gareth, that's why I'm not that worried. Brock Purdy didn't have much of a different game. And it sounds stupid saying out loud, other than 4 interceptions, but the sky isn't falling in. It's not like the interceptions we used to see with Jimmy or with Mullins or with Bethard. And the Ravens played well. We said off air, Gareth, 3rd and 16 against the likes of Jackson, Mahomes. Just give us PTSD because they just seem to pull it out the bag. But you look at Lamar's stats, Nadgy. I said to you, there's all this talk of MVP for Lamar. Baker Mayfield's got more touchdowns, more passing yards, and the same QBR rating. However, Jackson did play well on Christmas Day in prime time. But again, he had similar stats to Brock Purdy. It wasn't like he came in and threw for 400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he torched us. And I think...
Didn't need to.
And again, there's a lot of people on our group, Gareth, have talked about the last few weeks. We've been banging the drum for Brock to be MVP. Guess what? We're a 49ers show, and we love Brock Purdy. Of course, we want him to be MVP. But I think it does bring us back to, it was his worst performance of his career, yet the ceiling is still sky high. And he'll bounce back, like you said, Nadgy. Go and watch the game tape. Go and watch JT O'Sullivan. Go watch Johnny Dell. They break it down. They've got the all-22. They slow it down. And my knowledge this year has increased doing these scouting reports. And I kind of felt a bit humble, Nadgy, that what we'd said the Ravens defense was going to do, they did. The linebackers were excellent. Best that Purdy's faced. So if we meet them again, Gareth, maybe it's a lesson learned. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I think there's lessons to learn for that. I think that was what I alluded to in the beginning, that slice of luck. The batted passes can go anywhere. We've seen that with 3 of the interceptions. They could have landed anywhere, and all 3 of them landed right to a Ravens player. And I'm not saying that we lost due to bad luck, because we didn't. We were beaten by the better team. But that luck, particularly the way it changed the momentum or stalled us early in the game and at the beginning of the 3rd quarter, just really knocked the stuffing out of us. And when the game gets away from you, we've seen before, we tend to move away from the run game, which was working well. We had to put it back on Brock Purdy. And fair enough, the best thing you see for a quarterback, he's thrown 4 interceptions and he's still coming out there throwing those deep layered passes into danger areas without any sort of hesitancy to it. He's just gone right back out there and carried on doing what he's doing. It didn't seem to bother him. And I think that's a positive we can get out of it. But you alluded to it as well. Fair play to the Ravens. I think the Ravens were very well prepared. I think they were very well drilled. And I do think you make a bit of your own luck. I think they had realised, a little bit like we've been able to contain the running quarterbacks by kind of reining in the pass rush a little, and keeping the quarterback contained. I do wonder whether they had identified throwing lanes and said, stay there, stay in the throwing lanes, and don't try and get to him. When he's throwing, just get your arms up in the air. And whether that is a tactic they'd actually looked at, because of course Brock isn't the biggest quarterback. We've seen people do that with Kyler Murray, which is sit there in the pass lanes if you can identify them and just get your arms up in the air. And that's my concern, that if other people see that and use that as a blueprint, because Purdy is sneaky athletic in terms of his escapability and his pocket presence, and I think people have seen that and maybe adjusted to that and said, well, the one thing he can do is he can't get the ball up high over those short distances because he's not the tallest guy out there, and maybe that was a Ravens game plan for batting the passes, and it just so happened on the night they fell very nicely. But I think you're right. The sky's not falling in. Every quarterback has a bad game. I didn't even think it was that bad. It's just the interceptions, they just fell to the Ravens players. How many times have we seen them drop just out of reach or just drop short, and the game's entirely different? But it was one of those nights. I failed to mention my 3 talking points.
Oh yeah.
Which was because it's partly that. It's towards the end of the game, I was thinking it's better to have all of your bad luck and all of your off games from your key players in one go, because Kittle dropped catches. He let that pass bounce right off him for one of the interceptions. Debo dropped. I think Ayuk dropped. I think everybody just seemed to. I think partly because of the game had got away from us, but everybody seemed to have a bad game. And I thought, actually, while it's painful watching this at 3:30 in the morning, I'd rather see all our bad luck going in one game, because you can only lose one game at a time, rather than see that kind of drop in performance level or just the bad luck spread out across the season. So that was going to be one of my talking points. The others was, it's going to hurt, and poking the bear at this time of the season isn't necessarily a bad thing in the long run. I think at humbling the team, that may be not so bad. And finally, we really need that number one seed to manage some of the battered bodies, which probably leads me nicely onto your second point, Nadgy, the O-line. Performance and injuries. Take it away.
Performance definitely not good enough. The Ravens only rushed 4 pretty much all the time, and they got pressure a lot. They managed to get 4 sacks, and as you said, 3 of the picks that they got were battered by one of them, or as the last one was, they just got to Brock and touch his arm. No, yeah, they did a really good job, and we didn't. And so I don't know if it's all injuries. I know Aaron Banks has been struggling with a toe, but Trent Williams was out with the groin. I don't know how early he did that, and if he just battled through it until the game was pretty much out of reach and decided to drop out. And Jalen Moore got concussed as well. But we had to basically put Markiewicz on the left side, put Burford at tackle on the right side with Feliciano at guard. And it was a bit, I mean, we ended up playing the game with just Brandel as in his right starting position. It's very difficult to manage any kind of running or just protection when you have a makeshift line on the fly. Had we lost one more lineman, we could actually not carry on playing the game, and we would have had to forfeit, which I'm not sure has ever happened ever before. Yeah, that's the situation we ended up being. And again, I think we cannot just say, oh, we lost this game because of a couple of injuries here and there. The Ravens pushed us and battered us on the line of scrimmage, and they made their own luck, and we got injured in the process. They were much better than we were. They were much better prepared than we were on that game. And even if we don't throw 4 picks or we protect Brock a little bit more, I think that game would have been extremely close anyway. We could have lost it regardless of that. But yeah, O-line is. I'm keeping an eye on the injury report. Obviously, Trent didn't practice, but I think he's okay. Banks didn't practice, so we would have to keep an eye on all of
I
that.
think Williams was there today, and he doesn't normally
Yeah.
practice on a Wednesday, but I think he took part in the walkthrough because I've seen some people on tweets. And then,
yeah, no,
to echo your point, because we're known for stats on this show, the Ravens generated 22 pressures and 4 sacks on Monday Night Football. Nadgy, that's the most pressures given up by us all season. The previous high, surprised me, was 15 week 1 at the Steelers. And like you've said, people listen to this show know what we talk about now. Good football teams find a way to expose your weakness. And what I felt the Ravens did well, Nadgy, they attacked us like CMC is being used to block on the edge or to, sneak off in the motion. They went straight for him. When I've watched the game tape back, there's a couple of times where CMC's at fault. The linemen have done all right, but because the edges come off off the edge and he's bull rushed CMC, Brock was like a deer in headlights. And I think the one Brock wants back is where he saw the flag and he was running around thinking the flag was on them and it was a free play. And he throws it across his body to Kittle. And like you said, Gareth, 9 times out of 10, George makes that bounce off his blooming chest. And then before you know it, the Ravens have got the ball again. And I think things like that, remember people, he's only just turned 24. The Brock Express isn't being derailed. But yeah, I think our O-line had a bad night. And it's shown they've re-signed Matt Pryor. They've released Manning, and I think Trent Williams will be a big one if he can play on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think that's a good cover of it. The Ravens defense is pretty ferocious, and they came with a good plan and were well prepared and executed it well. And I think it really helped if you can get your noses in front. We've seen before, if we have to play from behind, we're not the same team, and that is something I think I mentioned it way. Perhaps it was even in the 3-game losing streak, but way further back, we've got to find different ways to win. We've got to be able to come back from being in a hole, and I think we saw it on this game. We just abandoned the run as soon as we're behind, and the run game was working well. CMC was pulling off big runs, and then we just seemed to move away from it. And early in the third quarter, there's plenty of time left. It's not the last 4 minutes or so of the game. We've got to find a different way of overcoming when these teams execute their game plan and get us in the hole, which the Ravens did exactly as you said, by attacking us at the line of scrimmage and stopping us doing what we wanted and getting that bit of luck early. And that's probably my biggest concern. I think the actual result, the performance, everybody just seemed a little bit out of sorts. Obviously, people are tired. The preparation, perhaps Christmas, everything else. Even though it was the home game, you've got to take your hats off to the coaching staff at the Ravens for preparing their team to travel across the country and pull out that sort of performance, because that's the sort of thing that championship teams do. And obviously, we've seen the Ravens move ahead, I think, of the Niners in terms of being the Super Bowl favourites now because of that performance. It was a good performance. We weren't quite up to it, but I don't think it was our indicative of what the team is. And that's why I've said about poking the bear. That's going to hurt. And I think a lot of those guys are potentially in the next game, as we will come to later, going to want to make a statement and want to make a much improved performance. Turnovers, Paul. I think we have kind of covered it, but anything else to say? I don't really want to talk about it anymore, but over to you.
The only thing I was going to bring back when you were mentioning there, and I was going to ask both of you too, Kyle Shanahan is known for having his game plan and his scripted plays. And that first drive, like you said, Nadgy, we march up the field. And hindsight is a wonderful thing, people. But what I'd like to have seen, 1st and 10, instead of going for that throw to Debo, why not, when CMC's motioned across, the defense don't bite in it, Gareth, do a run play, see what the defense is going to give you. It just seemed that Kyle, I don't know for you two, he wanted Brock to win the game early on. That was the game plan, was we're going to be pass heavy. We're not going to run the ball very well. I've seen some people say it's all part of 5D chess and Shanahan's thinking of the Super Bowl. I promise you he's not. You win who's in front of you. I just think maybe we got a little bit overcomplicated with things and the Ravens came in, stuck to the game plan. But you can't lose a turnover battle, Gareth. We've said it time and time again on this show. And if you give up 5 interceptions, you look at the stats, we actually outgained them 121 to 101 on the ground, 308 to 241 in the air. And I know people are going to say that's because you gave them the ball right on your goal line. But equally, we lost this game by 2 touchdowns and we've turned the ball over 5 times. We should be sat here looking at maybe a 3, possibly a 4 touchdown score. The defense played well. We lost this game in that weird period between the end of the first half and then the third quarter. And it was just, I think that was the interception for me that I think Brock and Kyle have both said, nah. And you said it before, Nadgy. Go listen to what Kyle Shanahan said. They've sat down together on Brock's birthday. They've watched game tape. The sky's not falling in. So I'm feeling ever optimistic. And like you said, Gareth, if you are in need of therapy, we're the 3 fine gentlemen for you, because by the end of this show, you're going to be fully back on the Brock Express, I promise you.
Oh, God, yes. No, I mean, I think it's a good reminder of what football is. It's a hard game where margins are very, very small. And Paul and I talked about it, that the only way I could see us lose this game was us not playing the way we should have played, and it's exactly what happened. And if on top of that, those turning points are happening at the worst possible time, which is exactly what we did, it's very, very, very difficult to win a game. Not impossible, but very, very difficult. There is also one stat, and I agree with you. I think that is something that we need to see Kyle do, hopefully very soon. That 0-36 when we're 8 points down in the fourth quarter, it's really, really worrying. The fact that we cannot win games, we cannot get back into a game. If 8 points is not that much, it's 1 touchdown and a field goal. You can win on the field goal on the next possession. It's really funny that, as you say, we seem to kind of abandon the whole plan, even though it's working. And all you need is just slowly get back into the game. I think I remember Julian Edelman and Tom Brady talking on the side on the 28-3 world famous comeback, and it's just, let's just win the next play, and then when you've done now, we'll win the next one after. And I don't think Carl is quite there yet. I don't think he's realized that you don't need to win it all. And Brock is the same. That throw across his body to George, you don't need to do this. You don't need to win on this play and win the game right there. Just throw the ball away, take a knee, leave another day. It's really important. It's really hard to learn this when you play football, because most sports aren't like this. It doesn't happen like this. In basketball, in soccer, you don't win just a little bit at a time. You have to be better straight away and for long periods of time to win it back. Football is not like that. You have to win slowly, because they're going to get the ball back and then you're going to get it back, etc., etc. So again, I think the whole thing and the fact that it was on TV and everybody was watching, it's going to give us ammo. People are going to be very pissed off about it, and I think a lot of people on the staff have learned a valued lessons. The Ravens are seasoned, good coached team. We have so many young people on our staff. It's crazy. Even Kyle, he's not that old compared to Pete Carroll's and the likes of. They've got 30 years on him, and even John Harbaugh's been in the league for what seems to be forever. So you've got to. I think sometimes some games it's just the way it is, isn't it? You just show up, nothing's going your way, and you're just going to turn around and look at the next game, learn from it, because that's the main important bit, and on to the Commanders. Ultimately, if we win the rest of the season, this game will be forgotten. But it's very hard to win games when you turn the ball over.
When you first start watching football, and Tracy was watching a game maybe the week, Nadgy, and it was, I think CMC got 1 yard on the ground, and he literally ran straight into the defenders, and Tracy went, "Why is he doing that?" And I was like, it's keeping the defense honest. You have to run the ball sometimes for not little gain, and sometimes you have to do these things. And when you first watch football, you think, well, if he can throw it 50 yards, why can't he do that every play?
Every time,
it's not as easy as that. And like you said, Gareth, we sat here now 4-1 in that period of the season, the bird hunting season. I think we'd have all taken that a few weeks ago.
Totally.
I'm sure I had the Baltimore's as a loss.
Win the next 2 games, the number 1 seed. Everything runs through Levi, so the sky isn't falling in. And what's weird, and we're going to move on to it, the penalties. I don't like to blame penalties for a loss. I don't like to blame the referees, Nadgy, but I'm more wanting to talk about it from our team point of view. So I don't know whether that's the right time now, Gareth.
Yeah, definitely.
So 10 for 102 yards.
Way too
And
much.
we were back to the bad old days of where a good play would happen and then the yellow flag would appear. And that was on both sides of the ball. Gibson was called for penalties on consecutive plays. I think he gave Ravens 37 of the 65 yards needed to set up Tucker's 28-yard field goal. Gibson was called for pass interference on the tight end, whose name escapes me. Hargrave got a sack in the second quarter. I was saying to Nadgy off air, was trying to watch it quietly, trying to celebrate quietly at stupid o'clock in the morning. And then plays like that shift the momentum. And I just wanted to know what your two thoughts were. That's why I wanted to mention penalties, because we have to talk about it, chaps.
I think it was symptomatic of a poor performance, of a sloppy performance, because the penalties happen partly due to perhaps a little bit of frustration and dropping that concentration level, and sometimes, particularly when you're chasing the game, trying too hard, forcing and thinking, we've got to score, we've got to get this first down. I'll just hold on to that guy, just see if the refs, miss it. And I think it's that. When you're playing badly and the game's getting away from you, the penalties tend to creep in as well. So I don't necessarily think it was clearly a contribution to the loss, but I think it was just symptomatic of the way we can sum up the entire game, and several people have. It was a bad day at the office. This is why you don't go to work on Christmas Day. We should bin these Christmas Day games. Ravens.
You've been talking to Tracy.
Yeah.
Christmas Day game. It didn't spoil my Boxing Day, but equally there was that bitter taste in your mouth. And before we move on, Mitch, all-pro punter Mitch, even he got in the act with that stupid penalty out of play. And
frustration.
And the score off that, and like you said, Gareth, it's frustration, but you mix that in with the turnovers. And I know people who tune in who are maybe non-Niners fans or maybe like to be a little bit more naysayers than us are going to say, you're glossing over that. We haven't. We've given the Ravens their flowers and their credit. However, it's not like they've come in and done to us like what we did to Dallas. And I've heard a few people say that, this must be what the Cowboys fans felt like. And I was thinking, not at all. Go back and watch the game tape. Take the emotion out of it. Brock Purdy's had his usual game. George Kittle had a monster game, which Nadgy called for on the preview show. It wasn't all bad. It's just we came out the bad end of 33-19.
It was me who called the
Gareth called that.
Yeah, he didn't get the touchdowns. CMC got
100 yards because Nadgy's the horse
got 100
now.
yards. So
you've been replaced, Gareth. Nadgy's the horse. I got all mixed up. Sorry, buddy, but I knew one of you had called a big Kittle game.
Yeah, to get back to the flags, the penalties. Yeah, on defense, I can see why they can happen, and I totally understand the logic and trying a little too hard and trying to make something happen, because as you see, you got to pick. The game changes quite a lot, especially if you can score on it straight away. The point differential is at least 10 sometimes 14. I can understand Gibson clearly trying too hard. We've never seen him doing what he did. The Ambry Thomas one was a bit unfortunate, I think. It just kind of got caught, and you're better off giving 15 yards than a touchdown. That's always going to be the case. Yeah, the ones on offense are obviously, it's just bad on bad on bad, and you can't get out of your own way sometimes. And again, I think the Ravens just pummeled us, destroyed us, and we had no other choice than committing fouls sometimes to try and get away with it. It is what it is. Again, kudos to the Ravens. They played much better than we did, and they totally deserved the win. Despite the 4 picks, as I said, I think it would have been a tight game anyway. But yeah, it's a symptom of everything.
They played a very clean game. I think they had very few penalties. You're always going to give up a few, but yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably enough, I think. Shall we move on to something more joyous? The score predictions. Which are possibly not worth mentioning. So,
well, I can bring it up if you want. If you give me a sec, I will. But I can tell you that nothing's happened.
Duck eggs.
But duck eggs all around. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We can't get everything right. We can't get everything right, Gareth.
player watch. Paul,
Let's do that.
only place to start since we started with your player last time.
I mean, we're not going to mention the fumble recovery. Actually, Nadgy might, but we've got to give Ronnie
absolutely. That's 2 in 2 weeks. So. That's too many.
It's true, but he's such an infuriating prospect. I mean, touchdown, Sam Darnold, decent throw in. It was nice to see Ronnie Bell get the touchdown in garbage time, but it is a concern that, especially now they've activated Danny Gray, I think that's telling that they've activated his practice window off IR. They haven't elevated him to the squad, but given the fact that there's been an opportunity there, Ronnie Bell might look back on these and think, you're not going to get too many of them, Nadgy, as a rookie. You can't keep doing that.
No.
But he scored another touchdown, so... And I had a stat for Lee's player watch because I wasn't sure how prepared we were going to be. So McKivitz, get this loaded up. He's not as bad as everyone makes out, to be fair. So on the night, he was 27th in the league in blown block percentage on pass snaps. He's now dropped to 29th in the league after Monday night. But
I mean, you had to play left tackle, so
he's not getting paid the big bucks like his predecessor is. So, and as I've seen another tweet, we don't have much first round talent on that all line, but more on that for maybe the off season.
I think that might change, and I think it probably needs to change. But there we are. Your players, Nadgy. Again, Jordan Mason. Well, anyway, we've talked about that. We don't know. We
just don't know. If there was one opportunity to see him, it was this one. Try and again to throw something else into the pot. Didn't happen. Jaya Brown, probably his worst one. I think again, just realize what the top elite of the NFL can do, and how to and the journey he has to get on if he wants to get there. He played against I think what should be his role model. Carl Hamilton was absolutely stellar. Didn't look good, especially trying to tackle Lamar Jackson a couple of times, and then got basically very rookie-ish type of performance from Brown. Again, he'll learn from it, and because they were in a hole and they were trying to do things a little different on defense, it's hard to adjust, and we kind of paid for it. But he'll learn.
Do you not think it's funny, Nadgy, that people say Lamar doesn't have any weapons? Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham are not two bad receivers.
Yeah,
and like
Zay
you
Flowers,
said, Brown went up against them both. Zay Flowers was superb. So, and we said a couple of weeks ago with Brown, this is what happens with the rookies. You're going to have those ups and downs. And like you said, Gareth, better to happen in the game now than in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. Demo, typical good solid game, I think. Some mistakes, but no more so than a lot of other places on the defense. Still those missed tackles coming in, and still finding it difficult to contain that running quarterback. And I think, as you said, Nadgy, we make a couple of great plays, get them right where we want in third and long, and whether it's just that we seem to notice it, but we just do seem to give up third and 18 far more often than we give up third and 7.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's any stat can analyze that. Probably can. Sure. Pretty much every stat can be analysed, but
true.
It just that's the way it feels, isn't it? You think we've got them, we're gonna get them off the field here, and then just to see them get the first down after first down, it is a bit demoralising, and I think the defense has that as well.
To be fair, Gareth,
they've got to look at themselves.
Bosa said that Lamar was different than what they'd seen on the tape. They said that on the game tape coming into this, he'd stood in the pocket a bit more, where on Monday night he seemed to default to the Lamar of his MVP years and looking for those escape hatches quickly. And like you said, on that run, 3rd and 16, we're all sat at home thinking, defense looks solid here. And he took off and one missed tackle. I mean, we talk missed tackles. We only actually had 6 missed tackles on the night, so it was an improvement. But when you watch the tape back, there was so many opportunities to sack Lamar Jackson, and people just got an arm to him, or he seemed to juke the wrong way. And hopefully, it's something we don't see again for a while. But who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
anyway,
It's
Go on,
Lamar.
Nadgy. Go on.
No, he's
It is. Yeah.
it's this is top. There's only him that can do that. They're not going to see that again for a while.
So I think we should flush the Ravens, unless you've got anything else, and perhaps we should look ahead to week 16.
Well, thank you to the Empire that gave us 2 points. That was nice. I guess that was pretty funny. I don't think I've ever seen that player tripped on the Empire in the end zone. The game started pretty well for us with 5-0 up. But
Yeah. But
never mind.
yeah, soon went bad. Anyway, that is enough of that. So week 16, and we're treated to a New Year's Eve game. Great for some,
17.
awkward for others. And it's the long trek east to face the 4-11 Washington Commanders. The Commanders are on a 6-game losing streak and have now benched QB Sam Howell for backup Jacoby Brissett. Don't know whether that's necessarily a good or a bad thing for us. The Niners do desperately need a get-right game, and a trip to a struggling team with little to play for could be just what we need. Was one of you guys able to delve into History Corner for a bit of this?
Yes, I did.
Nadgy, off you go then. You have to do it in Lee's accent though.
Oh, there's no chance. I cannot do English accent at all.
Neither can Lee.
We've actually played each other quite a while. Obviously, the team used to be called the Redskins. They're now called the Commanders. They were also called the football team for a while, which is for 1 year, which I think was better than Commanders, but that's a subject for another day. We hold the head-to-head 22-12 with 1 draw and now. Our biggest victory, I think we've got a couple. I've lost everything now, but we did win 52-7 once, I think. No, they won 52-17 against us, so that's their largest victory against us. And our biggest victory, I've lost it. I think it was something like 48-7 or 41-7. There it is. In 1954. Not much history, not much rivalry. I think they've always been in the NFC East, so we've played each other quite a lot, being in the NFC. But yeah, when does the Commanders last good? Because I don't remember really if they ever have been.
They were a decent
Iceman?
team in certainly in the late 80s. They
Late
were
80s.
They won the Super Bowl, I think, before us, and I
Okay.
think they beat us in an NFC Championship game, which might have been 83 or 84. It was before, Super Bowl 18. I think Washington won it and had beaten us in an NFC Championship game where I think we were probably favoured to win, and didn't manage to pull it out. Because it shows how close we were to winning more than 4 Super Bowls in the 80s. We could have probably won certainly 6 if we'd a few things had gone our way, but that's ancient history. But I can't think the last time Washington have actually been that competitive, or last time they've made a championship game.
In my fandom, RG3's rookie season, when Shanahan was there, was the last time I remember them being quite prominent. And I thought, History Corner, you might mention the 2019 game.
I was going to. I was getting there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see you for that.
Yeah, we have to talk about. I think for newer people that have been following the NFL not that long ago, this is obviously the most predominant game. The 9-nail mud ball. I don't think it was the first ever mud ball, but it's certainly one for the ages. Free field goal by Robbie Gould and all those sliding people all over the place. I remember basically the entire D-line just sliding about 50 yards. It was horrendous.
Aquaplaning,
Aquaplaning, yeah. I don't think that game should have been played. Probably very dangerous. And it was horrible to watch. They really couldn't do much at all. No running, no passing, no nothing. It's just field goal. Yeah, it's a good it's a good memory because we won it. But yeah, that's about it. I don't really know much about Washington. I think they've been one of those teams that's just kind of been average to good at some point, but never predominantly at the top or being a pen in our neck personally. So that's good. Quite a lot of players play for both teams. I've only wrote down a few. Billy Kilmer, no idea who actually that is, but I've looked at the players that have played long stint for both teams, not just 1 year in and there, because that happens way too many. He was a quarterback. Notable names that I know: Andre Carter, Vernon Davis, Brandon Lloyd, Alex Smith, obviously are big names. We have two right now on our roster that used to play. Chase Young, of course, most recently added, and Trent Williams, who is very well known for played for the Redskins back then. And then obviously the best one we've always loved is Josh Norman, because he's our favorite DB, and he's played for them too. So yeah, quite a few names. I think kind of legends as well of Niners. Alex Smith, Vernon Davis, Trent Williams certainly is going to be. Yeah, that's about it. I'm quite glad the way they treated Alex when he came back from his gruesome injury. I think that was really nice to see, and I think we played them that season. He played in, I remember in 2021, maybe it was.
And that was in contrast to how they looked after Trent Williams, which is why Trent really likes to play against him. You've missed the big one, Nadgy. Pierre Garçon, big free agent signing, came from Washington, didn't he? Wide receiver. I just remember when he signed, a couple of people in the group got jerseys because I think they thought he was going to be better than what he was.
Who was that?
Pierre Garçon.
Oh, Pierre Garçon. Yeah, that's true.
Wide receiver.
Yeah,
one touchdown in 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Good poker face there, Nadgy. I thought, I've practiced that. I've got that pronunciation right. And you looked at me.
I generally forgot. The list is pretty long, so I may have just missed it. I called my McCoys play for both teams, but people like this, we just don't need to talk about it.
No, really Vernon Davis was the one. That's
Vernon Davis,
for me. Club 85 original member. So,
and of course, the Washington did win their division with a 7-9 record. Was that 3 or 4 seasons ago?
Yeah, they did.
Well, I think that was the last time they made the playoffs.
Yeah. Not really full of glory the recent years and carrying on apparently, but more on that right now.
Yeah, and obviously a change of ownership, maybe a change of direction.
Yeah,
possibly a change of head coach coming on the way as well. And I think they've had coaching changes already. Perhaps we'll cover that with the defense, Paul.
Right.
Yeah, it was a bit difficult preparing this week because they sacked Jack Del Rio a few weeks ago after they got blew out by the Cowboys. I said to Nadgy off air, Gareth, what can you say about the defense ranked 32nd in the league? They let Trevor Siemian last week eclipse 200 yards. The Jets' run game, which isn't known for much this year, added an extra 164. This could end up looking like a college defense versus an NFL offense on Sunday when I've been doing the deep dive. Like I said, Jack Del Rio got fired in November. And weirdly enough, Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, took over the defensive duties. And I was quite surprised because when you go back to his stint at the Panthers, the defense didn't do so well there. So the big change that everyone will notice for us is under Jack Del Rio, they tended to play a lot of man coverage. In fact, the most in the NFL. Since he's gone, they've gone back to zone coverage, but the secondary is terrible. And it's shown on the tape. They give up big, explosive plays time and time again. They've got nothing to play for. They've allowed 384.3 yards. They've allowed 51 touchdowns to be scored. The pass defense is ranked 31. The rush defense is ranked 23. I just think it's going to be a cakewalk for us. The secondary tries to disguise its looks similar to what the Ravens did, but they don't do it as well. So I think Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy are going to be having their Christmas turkey this week, Gareth. But there's not much to say. You've got the people watching on YouTube. Nadgy's put the depth chart up there. So there's a couple of people injured. Any names jump off the page, chaps, for you guys? Kendall Fuller was the one that I recognised straight away. Other than that, I was struggling to come up with stuff for people on there that I didn't really know.
I think their best player is probably Daron Payne, their nose tackle or left D tackle. They've really don't that much on there. Castro Field, we used to have. We
drafted him. I was going to say that was the first name that stuck out to me.
In the 5th round, yeah. Good that he landed on the team and he's playing because I quite liked him. Clearly not good enough for the NFL, though. He's third string corner. No, really not much. Jonathan Allen is not a bad rushing, but I think he's kind of hurt a little bit. No, this is perfect for us to get right. I think I wouldn't underestimate them because they're an NFL team and they can certainly play football and cause problem, especially if we start doubting. That's not going to happen. But this is perfect game for Brock and co. I think everybody's going to have a big game. More on that later.
If you cast your minds back to the Jags game, and when we did the prep for the Jags game, Gareth, I said the Jags focused a lot on making turnovers the key feature of their defense. That's what Washington tried to do. And a lot of their secondary and their corners tried to jump the routes, but they missed the ball, they missed the man, and it ended up going the other way. And they've continued to do it all season. And I just don't know why someone hasn't sat down. I'm not an expert. It jumped off the tape to me. And when I was doing my research, I thought, why do they keep doing that? But apparently, it's a philosophy that they've explored and they want to make the turnover battle the key. But what they're doing is they're missing tackles, they're missing the ball, and they're letting the other team. I think they give up an average 30 points per game, which, if you're listening to us week in, week out, the 49ers tend to like scoring 30 points, don't they, Nadgy?
Yeah, we do. But as I said, I really would not underestimate them. They were down 20 odd points against the Jets, and they fought back. So they will play despite not having anything to play for. This notion of tanking doesn't exist for players. Obviously, this is all a coaching thing, if it does indeed exist, which I don't think it does. But yeah, they'll play hard and they'll play till the end. I'm sure they would love to spoil our season and make something of this game. It's at home. It's probably their last game at home. I think they're playing the Cowboys the week after.
That's right. Yeah. After
So
last 2 games,
I'm sure they would absolutely love spoiling us and the Cowboys season by taking 2 wins when we really need to win to get our number 1 seed. Although they would give it to Philly, which I'm sure they wouldn't like either. But yeah,
I was going to say beating us helps Dallas and Philly. So you're right. I don't think the players actually care.
That's not. Yeah,
really.
They don't.
No, I agree with Nadgy. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk to the point where they're going to let people go past. It's just we've said it time and time again. You look in the NFL and there's fine margins, but at the moment they're struggling on both sides of the ball. There's talk. Gareth have already said Riverboat Ron won't be back next year. Every win hurts their draft prospect. They've benched the QB, so you could argue they're not tanking as such. But if they win these games between the last 2 games, it could affect draft position. But you're right, Nadgy. Players don't think about that.
No.
Some of these players might not be there next year, so they're playing for jobs elsewhere, which is what makes the NFL a beautiful sport.
And I think the change of ownership is actually quite huge. They clearly were in a weird relationship with Snyder before all of this stuff has happened. The John Gruden got fired because of Snyder. So I think the new regime, the new ownership, which I think is a conglomerate of people, it's not just one that owns the team now, would want to just wash their hand of everything that's been done before they arrived, and it's probably going to show. I think I don't know if you remember, Paul, but when we talk about the Cardinals, I said it wouldn't surprise me if I see them kind of quitting, like they did in Mexico. Some players making business decision. I could see this happening in that game. If we can run the score up big, I wouldn't be surprised if that defense decides to not play as hard as they would, just to keep the bodies fresh for next season. And as you said, try and find a job, maybe with this team and the new regime, and try and start something anew, or somewhere else and short for the playoffs or a better team or whatever it is that those people want to do. So unless you've got anything else to say, we'll talk briefly about the offense.
Let's. We've done the who's nobody of the defense. Let's do the who's nobody of the offense.
Well, I think their receiving core is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
it is unfair. I think they've got a good offense. I think they've got weapons. The name obviously that jumps here is Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. Really like him. I think he's a very, very good underrated receiver. He could hurt us. He's extremely good. He's better than Zay Flowers. Let's put it that down. I know we don't talk about the Ravens anymore. But John Dodson is very good too in his second season. Curtis Samuel used to be compared to Debo. I think that went away pretty fast when he went to the Panthers. And they all offensive coordinator. Sorry, I'm just bugging. Is actually very good. He used to be in Kansas City. He's left. We see what's happening in Kansas now. Eric Bieniemy, who I think should have had a head coach job years ago. Let's now expand on this. He's running the offense. I think it's a good offense. They're just really poor in talent, especially on the line. And if you see all those red names here, Charles Leno, Tyler Larson, and Willie Andrew, look like they might not play. I know two of them certainly will be questionable. I think one of them is practiced already. So they're going to struggle on the line, and that's probably one of the reasons Jacoby Brissett is starting rather than Sam Howell. I don't think they want to injure a rookie in there who takes maybe a tad longer than a veteran like Brissett to read defenses and give him the extra time, especially against a very hungry D-line from the San Francisco 49ers that's going to rock up to town. That's going to try and make a statement for sure. I also like their running backs. I think Brian Robinson Jr. is pretty good, especially when he was Jacksonville. Really got done dirty there. But even Antonio Gibson is very decent. And Derek Gore, no affiliation with Frank. Used to be in Kansas. Clearly, Bieniemy brought him over. I think they play a good defense. They're just not as talented as they would like to be. It's a lot easier to run that kind of offense with Mahomes than with a rookie or a second year like Sam Howell. But yeah, nothing on that scares me. I think Terry McLaurin is a good test for Ambry Thomas and Mooney Ward. But apart from that, I think the D-line is going to be feasting.
You mentioned that we played them last year, and you're right, it was Christmas Eve last year because Tracy's least favourite game of the year. We won 37-20. But the reason I brought that up, Nadgy, is they benched Taylor Heineke for Carson Wentz. And it's weird that we're playing against them again, and they've benched a young quarterback to bring in Brissett, which I don't know, like you said. I never thought of it, like you said, about the rookie getting the ball out of his hands. That could purely be what it's about. Because when you look at Howell, he tends to be a bit of a poor man's Justin Fields, is what I've heard him described as, running around a little bit and trying to make a play. He's got the lowest completion rate in the NFL, so I was kind of excited to see our secondary go up against Howell. But Jacoby Brissett, decent veteran.
Seasoned veteran. He's one of those guys that can have a good game, but also is a backup for a reason. And he hasn't played for a while. He was in Cleveland last year, so it's only his first year in the system, and he hasn't played this year. And I think he's in for a shock at the speed of our defense, especially when we're going to try and make a statement, and I cannot overstate this. Our defense is going to be hungry and angry on that game. And we do need to win. As I said, we win this game. Detroit, which I think is going to lose against the Cowboys. Please, Cowboys, do us a favor for once. And the Eagles could get pushed over by the Cardinals. And then we've got the number one seed. So, we just need to win 2 games anyway. So this one is next on the calendar. So why not? Anything else that jumps at you?
They're not a team that I've paid that much attention to. They don't really have those star playmakers that you kind of hear about and want to watch their highlights because you hear about what they're doing. They have won 4 games, I guess, so they're not the worst in the division, but it does seem maybe it'll be interesting to see if they get a home crowd turnout on New Year's Eve afternoon when there's not much to play for and not much to cheer for, particularly if the weather's bad, because of course the weather could be a factor in this game as well. That's something that concerns me, particularly with the amount of injuries that we're currently carrying, particularly from the last game. The last thing you want to see is one of those slip and slide games where people are taking tumbles all the time. But I think you've said it. They're a team we should be able to get after. I think there's a lot of players out there who will want to prove that the last game isn't indicative of their individual performances or our performances as a team. And I think we'll want to go out and make a statement early. And I think hopefully, without dismissing the Commanders too much, to be honest, this is a game we should have won in the third quarter. and then be able to potentially to rest some people. The Commanders haven't got anything to play for, and we have got talent to overwhelm them at every single position, and should do so after our last performance. If we can't, that is some concern about losing that momentum going into the last game of the season and the playoffs. This is a team we should be putting away handily, as we have with other similar teams, putting 30 plus points on them, and making the game not even as close as the score looks at the end when we're winning by 17, 18 points. So
I don't think
that's
Quick
I don't think
correction:
Oh, go on.
Brissett did play against the Rams and the Jets the last 2 games. He subbed in for
yeah.
Sam Howell that got benched, so he has played and he's looked better and he's clearly won the job. Again, I don't think he could definitely have a big game like O'Connell did last year against us, against the Raiders. If you remember this, no, it wasn't O'Connell. It was somebody else.
Oh, Jason Stidham.
Stidham. It was
Wasn't it?
Stidham. Yeah, they
I think
had
Brissett,
a monster game, but
he hasn't turned the ball over. Just
Yeah.
looking, because you've mentioned the weather there, Gareth. So I was trying to Google it. There's no concerns at the moment, but it is Thursday night in the UK that we're recording this. And all I was going to say is when you look at the points that they've scored, they're very boom or bust. They've
Yeah.
won close games, but when you look, they've conceded 45 against the Dolphins, they conceded 37 against the Bills, 45 against the Cowboys. And if you look at those offenses, that's very similar to how our offense is. So I'm fairly confident like you, but any given Sunday, we found
Totally.
it out before. So
especially after the last game.
Yeah, and if there is any hangover from the last game or anything, or the injuries, particularly if we do struggle to field a strong O-line, that can obviously be a consideration as well. And if we're sloppy, if we've got penalties again, and we're too slack early in the game by thinking, we'll get another possession, we'll beat them later on in the game, and then suddenly the game's tight going into the third quarter, and Washington are saying, "Hang on, we can knock off a playoff team here." Maybe they'll get the tails up, and it'll be far less comfortable in the fourth quarter than we want it to be. But I am confident. I think we know the identity of the Niners team well enough to know that they won't want to put 2 bad performances together. I think they'll be smarting, and have been somewhat embarrassed by the game on Christmas Day. Interesting to see Devo seems to have been embarrassed by some high school kids this week on Twitter, I think with a Cam Newton impersonation. Interesting to see how he's going to react to that as well, whether that's going to prove to be a distraction. But with this has come at the right sort of time. We need a get right game, and we couldn't really have asked for a better one. So let's go over there. Let's put in a good performance, and let's get some momentum going into the last week of the season. Score predictions.
I'd have been more worried
go
if
on, Paul.
I'd have been more worried if Chase Young was still on the Commanders team, Gareth.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad he's on our side.
Yeah.
Score predictions.
Absolutely. I'm at the top.
I am definitely not in the lead, so
Yeah, I'm at the top, so I gotta go first now you're here. Lee hasn't sent his yet, so hopefully he does so in the next couple of minutes or so. If not, yeah, I think he did mention he likes the Commanders and he would give them 40 points or something like that. I heard stories of 45-3 to the Commanders. So that's what we'll be putting down very soon. But it's me first. I think we get it right, and we get it right properly to shut up the non-MVP, non all that. Although, I did say this is why you got to play football all the way to January to get the MVP. It's very hard to win it, and Brock's done himself a disfavor, but he's going to put himself right. We're going to win this game 38-17. There we
what have you
go.
got?
Very similar to Nadgy.
Yeah.
You can tell we're getting to the business end of the season. So I had 2, but I'm going to go with 34-13 for the 49ers. I was looking at a high one, but because we're at the business end of the season, I'm doing a bit of an El Presidente and
not gonna
my
lie.
head, not my heart.
Not gonna lie, I was very close to give us 45 or so. I just don't see it happening though. I think the game will,
Yeah,
as you said, I think they're going to be over in the third, and then maybe Download's going to play some more or something like that to rest Brock's shoulder or whatever it is.
So over to you, Gareth. This is where you come in and say 50 burger.
Well, you see, because now you've actually gone very close to my my prediction that I've got written down. But since I am trailing in the score prediction, I feel that I've got to do something to pull myself apart from the rest of you, really, and give myself a chance to win some points back. So I think I'm going to have to go large with a 42-10 Niners win.
Nice.
I had 45-10 written down, so yours comes in or that comes in. But
no, I've had to bump the Niners score up and the Commanders score down. I think to try and claw my way back into the.
Yeah, I mean it's totally possible. It's totally possible, and you definitely need it. So what are we doing for Lee's score? The 2 times I wasn't on, you just showed just it's just come in.
Breaking news!
Breaking news!
Perfect timing. Look at that.
Breaking news! Lee's.
I'm going to go back and watch this on YouTube because all 3 of us looked at our phones or screens at the same time. He's planned that. He knows what he's doing.
He's listening to me. There's a back door in StreamYard, and he's listening to our score predictions.
So there's 2 of them. I'll take the second one. So Lee's predicting a 35-19. I'm guessing Niners victory, right?
Yeah, we'll give him that. We'll give him the Niners victory.
We'll give him that.
We also need to shoot down the narrative that he's not here because he's addicted to the Pop Funko maker that a lot of us lost time to.
I think he created so many Microsoft accounts to be able to do it, and he broke it completely. So that's that. That's pretty close to us. I'll give him a chance to change it if he wants to when he sees mine and Yule's score prediction, Paul.
Tough. If you don't make the show, we've all had to put in skull predictions, not knowing what anyone else
That's true.
said.
I'm just trying to be fair. It's very close to us, so he's probably going to score the same as what we do. There or thereabouts. So
we've missed the voice of reason, Gareth, because me and Nadgy have been able to run the last 2 weeks with Nadgy saying,
I know it's been chaos.
Just predict better, Gowland. Just predict better, but we'll just think if we only finish the season with 1 perfect score prediction, then it's not Lee's. He's never gonna forgive. He'll rage about that.
I'm just gonna tell him now and see if he changes his mind. That's that. 2 to go until the playoffs, which will count. Remember, people, the playoffs will count. So it's not over. It's only 13 points, which you could just claw back this week.
Totally.
I mean, had you predicted a Ravens win, you would be right back in it.
That's it, yeah. And I think I possibly did at the beginning of the season. Although I think I also predicted a Washington win. I must say, I thought the Commanders were going to be a little bit better this season than they have, and I thought it might be one of those long travel games at the end of the season where you just don't quite turn up. But I think we've had that last week. Any boldies would you like to stick your necks out for this game?
Let's do it. As I said, I think Brock is bouncing back with a 4 touchdown performance, 350 yards, and I think he's going to run one in as well. So 5 touchdown totals.
Well, that would be bold, because if Brock throws for that, you've stole my thunder. I was going to say Brock was going to throw for 230 yards because he only needs 229 yards to become San Francisco's single season leader in passing yards, which the last time we had someone like that, Nadgy, was the year 2000.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Years ago. So because you stole my thunder with Brock Purdy, I'm going to say this is the Chase Young rebound game. He's going to get 3 sacks and a fumble recovery. You heard it here first on the 49er Faithful UK.
Nice. What about you, Gareth? Any boldies?
Well, that was. It's not bold. I think CMC's going to have another monster game. I think maybe 3 TDs, over 150 yards.
He's chasing Jerry as well for his for the record for touchdown. He's very, very close. Yeah, that Brock record. I would love for him to have him this game. this game because it would kind of contrast the Ravens game, and also he would have done it in 16 games because I'm sure if he does it in 17, people are just gonna be like, oh, it doesn't count. So if he does it in 16, I think it'll be a lot better. But yeah, if he's number one, get back that MVP talk on him because I still think he deserves that one bad game. I mean, had he played this game week 1, we would have all forgotten about it by now, and he would still be in contention for MVP. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. But
and he still leads the league in the rating, even with that shocking game to put into that. So it shows how good and how consistently he's been good about over the other games.
Well, as I said earlier, Gareth, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield's got 9 more touchdown passes, 400 more passing yards, and an identical 96 passer rating. So you've just got to be careful. You can't just let one good game or one bad game blind you. Like you said, Nadgy, it's over the season. I just kind of wish they'd do it at the end of the actual season, the MVP, rather than kind of like now. It just seems a little bit like, because let's face it, the only thing that really matters is February. And this could be our last road trip of the season. Because we win out, the next road trip will be Vegas, baby.
Yeah, which isn't that far. Yeah.
It's not. It's creeping up on us. So, lads, I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you for joining me, and thanks everyone who listens and watches the show.
One more thing, though.
Oh.
Yes. Sorry. No, you're getting there. Sorry.
I was going to say it. In fact, it was a very special end of year thanks to everyone who has watched and listened to the show this year, because I think we have broken our downloads record for the calendar year, and we are at least partly confident it's not just Lee deleting and then re-downloading all the episodes each week. We think that people are actually out there listening to the show. Did you have the numbers, Nadgy?
I do have the numbers. Yeah. So this December has been our best month ever.
Thank you.
We are at 3,300 and let me get this stat exactly right. December. There it is. 3,296. No doubt this podcast will get a few downloads. Hopefully, please download it. Listen to us. So December has been our best month ever. Also, we set ourselves a target at the beginning of the season at the beginning of the year in January, because we count January to December. It's easier, despite the nothing in the middle, rather than do September season, football season. But we wanted to reach 18,000, and we're about 300 away. So hopefully, please again tell people to download. And with this episode, will probably be the last one of the season. We should get there, and if we're not, we're very close to it. I'm very happy. Again, I think it's something. When we first started it, I really didn't care about the numbers. We did it because it was really fun. It still is really fun, and that's the primary reason we do it. But seeing us grow the way we are is more of a affirmation that what we're doing, people enjoy, and you talk about it. Otherwise, the numbers wouldn't grow. And that's good to see, because it makes us want to get better and put our nose down and watch more tape and talk more about and learn about football all together and talk Niners and not just blabber on about whatever like other Kent people do. Because we could do that. We could just come on and say, oh, you should start Darnold then because he scored a touchdown. But we don't. We really take pride in what we say and what we do and the way we say it. So it's good to see, and it's great to. It's a shame Lee isn't here to celebrate with us. But we can celebrate at the end of the season again. But yeah, let's I'm just happy that numbers are going up. It's pretty cool.
I was just going to say before you finish off, Gareth, this will be the last show of 2023.
It will.
The last podcast that I'm doing. We set ourselves a target with the YouTube channel. Not going to lie, Nadgy, I thought 500 by the end of the year subs. And we're at 703 subs. The fact that people are asking when the next pod's out or when the pods are going on. So originally, we weren't going to put the pods on YouTube because we thought people will just listen to the pod. But people want to see the interaction. And Gareth, you put together the new format, the 3 talking points, the scouting report. So to be honest, like you said, Nadgy, as much as we love doing it because we get to talk football, the structure's helped. And the fact that you come on and you don't know where the show's going to go. You've got your 3 talking points. And I said it in Levi's, and I'll say it again. Gareth Ellis has the hardest job in sports entertainment because he has to keep me, Gowland and Nadgy Paul in check. But all jokes aside, chaps, let's see what the playoffs bring, and I'm excited to see what next year brings to our little podcast.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well done, lads. And yeah, we do really appreciate all the comments and the fact that people ask for the show, and do listen to the show. And we're always open to any ideas or any constructive criticism as well. I think we're all big boys. I think we'd all rather hear if there was something about the show that people felt didn't work well, than people drift away from the show by not saying anything. Anyway, enough of that. I do hope you've all had a good Christmas despite the result, and I think certainly I've enjoyed seeing all the Niners swag that Santa has delivered to the UK faithful. So if you're getting anything else, do put the pictures out. We all do like to see the little Niners stuff that we get. So it might well be the last game and certainly the last pod of the year, but definitely not of the season. Let's get some momentum back before the playoffs and go out and get a good win. So enjoy any remaining leftovers and chocolates and pies that you might still have left, and enjoy your New Year's Eve. Go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Gareth and Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down.